Hello. I'm in my car, just taking off now, starting my tour. I gotta put my sunglasses on. I can't do this without my sunglasses. Again, I'm gonna start this video with an abusive relationship. Please, please, please do your research. Look up, I seem to have problems with connecting. I guess it was me leaving the house and it switched over from Wi-Fi. Again, in case I got blanked out while I was navigating. I can't look at the camera because I am driving. If you think you're in an abusive relationship, please do your research. Talk to shelters or counselors. Look into the power and control wheel. Yeah, that was one of the things I learned from somebody that had talked about her story on Facebook. She talked about how she had escaped and told her story about what she had gone through, and it triggered me into looking into if I was in an abusive relationship. Sorry, I'm driving and I do have to traverse around construction right now. So I started looking into it, and I saw the power and control wheel, and I'm looking at it, and almost every piece of the pie was covered. It's a wheel with lots of spokes, and I call it a pie, but it was the only thing that was missing was the actual physical abuse. And I still kind of wrote it off. I can handle it. I can handle it. I can deal with this. I can write this. I can fix this. I can fix him. Yeah. So please look into it. Continuation of my story. Now, one of the people I'm going to mention, Nikki now. Nikki and I have known each other for quite some time now. I believe it was around 2011 that we started talking and became friends. And Nikki has got muscular dystrophy. We text each other every day. She's actually one of the first people in my world that I ever texted in my life, because that's where I was at with technology at the time. So anyway, we text each other every day, good morning and good night at the very least, and then have conversations. And every time there was a argument or something with X, I would tell Nikki about it. She's one of the two people that consistently knew what was going on. And so when I was arrested, of course I didn't have my phone. And for a few days there, after I did get my phone back, a few days there, I was unable to talk to her. I didn't have the words to describe to Nikki what was going on. And it was when I finally did, of course, her first response when I told her everything was, "Oh my God, that's crazy," and that's everybody's response when they know all the details, that it was crazy. And what happened, with my arrest affected her, because there was several days where she didn't know what was happening. I just suddenly disappeared. And, for the first couple of days, it was because I couldn't communicate with her. And after that, I just didn't have the words at that moment. So there was several days. And then ever since then, and this has been, a number of years. It's 7.5 years, almost 8 years now since this happened. And even now, if there's a few days where I don't text or check in, or she doesn't see any activity on Facebook, she worries. It was a while there afterwards where, she thought I was arrested again. It caused her trauma too. Like I said, what he had done had touched so many people's lives so far and widespread. It was unbelievable. When I was saying about the other friend who had to spend the night running around trying to get the cash together, to bail me out. His beloved dog, was scheduled to be put down that morning while I was being arraigned in court, and he had to put that off so that he could be there for me because of what X had done. I didn't find this out until a long time afterwards, a long time. He was very private about that, and I guess he wanted to protect me. I'm driving, so I can't cry, and I'm trying not to cry. But yeah, it was catastrophic, and so much collateral damage, and clearly it still affects me to this day. And part of the reason why I'm talking about it now is it does still affect me to this day. It affects my children. Um, it it's we're still dealing with it in some way or another, right? I try to have as little contact with him as possible, and successfully have been for quite some time now. Now, back to the days following what was done. I wasn't able to contact my own house, my children, my mother, because she was at my house for a while, and then, like I said, he had dumped her at her house with no food, meds, or care, and I was at that time, I didn't have my van. I had no way of traveling anywhere other than by public transit, which, because my parents didn't like public transit, I never really learned how to use public transit, so that was all a new learning experience for me. And I was an hour away from home. I was in another city. I don't want to disclose because I am trying to protect the privacy of the people that took me in. Um, and it was a secret back then. Nobody knew I was there. We had to protect me in case he decided to come knocking on their door. And we also had to, because of the extent of the charges, the criminal charges that were laid against me, I wanted to protect their reputation as well, because they're fine, upstanding people with a very good reputation in the community and all around. And this was something so far out of their realm that it was best to keep everything very quiet. And they're very humble people that deserve a lot of respect and praises for what they did. But they don't want the attention. And I understand that and respect that, but always know there are good people out there. And there's some nasty ones. There's some pretty nasty ones who would rather kick a person further down when they're down, which I experienced during that time. I experienced it for years with dealing with the with the hoarding disorder. I saw how people were with regards to hoarding disorder, and after a while, I just accepted that. I just wrote them off. But in a situation where my children were involved and all of that, I expected better from people. Yeah, so the days following, I had to figure out public transit and sneak back to see my mom and bring her food and meds. For the first little while, it was really scary for me because I was not allowed to be anywhere where he was known to be. He, by the way, was actually using my children's phone, my daughter's phone, who was only 9 at the time. He would, in the middle of the night, ping me to use Find My Phone to see where I was located. And he had further court documents. He filed for emergency custody. Fortunately, the judge saw something was up because he could see that I had no previous history of violence or any medical conditions that were on file, so he held off on making a decision with regards to the emergency custody. I remember I don't have any money to speak of and needed a lot of legal help. My criminal lawyer was counting on, because I had a commission check that was coming my way, he took the cash that my friend was able to produce and then held the rest on account for later when I got my commission check, and for the good deal of $10,000. Everybody wanted a piece of me, and even to this day it feels like everybody wants a piece of me. Anyway, so I was allowed to return to my home with police escort, and how I was advised wrong. I was told that I could go at any time when it was convenient to me, and get the police to come with me to get my stuff. And I took the bus. Oh gosh, there was so many buses involved for a few weeks there. I took the bus to Square One. I'll continue with this one. And then the police said they had nobody to help me, that I have to book an appointment to schedule getting my stuff so I can have some clothes and things like that. And it took a couple of weeks in total before I could actually get back to my house. And I was actually very fortunate to be able to organize a whole bunch of friends to come and help. And we cleaned out my house of all the things that were essential to me, including my clothing, anything work-related, any jewelry, anything that I could either sell to make money with or use to make money with, like including, I used to have an aesthetics business. I am a certified esthetician. I still had equipment from that, so I even took, like that equipment with me to move, and we just hauled ass. We had 1 hour, and we hauled ass through my house while he was sitting in the backyard watching from the backyard what was going on. And I had, before, like the police officer was watching, and he's like, time's almost up, and I go, can I just have a few minutes with my children right now? And my children were 8 and 9 years old, my younger two. And we sat, and I tried to talk to them, try to see where they were at, and they didn't seem too traumatized at the time. I don't know if they were in shock or if I don't know what was going through their heads, because I don't know what was fed to them for information. But it was a very heartbreaking moment. I think I had a picture of that time when we were together, because I didn't know how long it'll be before we'd be together again. I thought it would only be like days or whatever. I thought he would come forward and tell the truth and make the charges drop. I didn't know. I was able to get my van back at that time, and I found a note in that van, and I said, I kept a file. I have all this stuff. He left a note in the van saying that he was going to fix this and that he was so sorry and all of that. And he would text message me afterwards saying that he was taking the kids camping and he wanted me to come meet them at the campgrounds. And meanwhile, I've got these bail conditions that if I broke any of those conditions, I would have been sent back to jail until my trial date. And I was so afraid, especially after what had happened and how unpredictable it was. I would not make any kind of contact the entire time with him. Like, if he texted me, I would not respond. I had a feeling that he was going to, I had a very strong feeling if I had made any contact that he would use it against me and have me thrown back in jail. If I were in jail, the entire world I had built would collapse, and it would take my mother and my children all out with it. And I could not step a toe out of line. I'm known for being ethical. I'm known for having integrity. And fortunately, that reputation had served me at that time, and everybody did believe me with regards to how it went down, and that I didn't do anything wrong other than, wanting to leave and give my children a better life. That's not wrong. Um, but yeah, so I tried very hard to keep everything normal and status quo as much as I could while traveling an hour each way. I wasn't driving highways back then because my highway anxiety was still really, really bad. It was actually very challenging for me to, it was actually an hour and a half or so each way. It was challenging for me even to do certain parts of that route because I would do back roads. But it gave me time to think, and it did give me exposure and face my fears. I, like I said, didn't have any money for legal, for family, for criminal, I had the commission check for the criminal, but that went really quick. I was very fortunate to have referred to one of my colleagues, a client and my colleague, and God bless you, Paul, to this day, if you see this. Um, you honored that. You were good about that, and you helped with giving me that referral fee for that. Um, I had to come up with $1,000 cash so I could pay for a lawyer to arrange a private second mortgage on my house. That, and God bless these people, I don't know who they are. They did a private lending agreement in order for me to get the money together for the legal fees. I had to take out a second mortgage on my house without an appraisal, without any kind of contact with the property, because my bail conditions were, and I had, the hardest part was, I had, every time I did some kind of transaction, especially serious ones like this, no matter who I spoke to, I had to tell them the truth of what was going on and divulge everything so that they can understand the severity and the urgency of what I was going through, and they had to, if they could help me, they would. Like the mortgage broker, I didn't know him from Adam at the time. Good mortgage broker out in Hamilton, but he doesn't do the kind of work that I need now. But yeah, I had to tell the story repeatedly so that I can get what I needed. And when I took all of my belongings from the house, like I said, I took jewelry with me. I had to come up with $1,000 so that I could take a second mortgage out of my house. So I went and I sold a bunch of my jewelry that barely made it, and then I had to sell a whole bunch of stuff from the elephant to make that $1,000 so that I can get that second mortgage so that I can pay the family lawyers and the real estate lawyer and the criminal lawyers, and because I ended up with another set because the first one was not working for me. He was not doing his job. And there was a couple of moments there, were phone calls that I had with him that he's died since. So they say don't speak ill of the dead. Uh, but it was very clear that there was a problem already existing at that time. I ended up firing him, and of course he charged me the full legal bill. So while I'm fighting these charges, and I've got all these bail conditions on me, I still have to pay the mortgage on my house. I still have to pay all the expenses that go along with the house. He squatted. X decided the only thing that he was going to offer me, because I cut off all the cable and the internet and all that stuff because I couldn't afford to pay for everything. And his only offer, instead of paying rent, and this is through third party, was to pay the $119 cable and internet bill. I'm paying everything, the mortgages, everything, as I always had. And I had to come up with a lot of money really fast, and that was taking this second private lender mortgage out. Now, until this time, I was terrified of private lenders, and in hindsight right now, rightfully so. But at that time, these people, they gave me the mortgage I needed to pay for everything and carry everything and buy me some time. Eventually, now in the meantime, my son is, okay, so we're getting into August, August 2017. Eventually, I had enough room made in the house to house my son. I cleared out a bedroom and set it up for him. He was staying with a family member until that time. I wouldn't say she gave him any emotional support or was actually there for him. He was going through his own crisis. I was going through my own crisis. I couldn't talk. It was, all we could do was hold each other and just say we're going to make it through this. When we saw each other, we didn't see each other consistently. CAS, we got to back up a little bit to CAS. They were a piece of work. I swear to God, I wanted to sue everybody by the time everything was done. CAS, because children were involved in the situation, police were there and all of that, of course, CAS is involved. It took 3 weeks. I called them. I couldn't get as calm as I was, I couldn't think completely clearly. I was trying to find help for myself. There was no help available. I was in a gray zone where charges were laid against me, so I'm not a victim. They don't see me as a victim, and so all the victim services out there weren't available to me. And I'm going to circle back to this because Hope 24/7 was the ones that stepped up, and I mentioned Hope 24/7 in my previous video, in one of my previous videos. But CAS, 3 weeks after the arrest, I finally called CAS because it finally dawned on me, where is CAS in all of this? Why, if the police were involved, they are supposed to be, that is their obligation to children. So I called up CAS and they said, hold on a second, when I gave them my name, I go, we got a file open here for you, we'll forward you to the worker assigned to this. And she answers and she goes, Sherry, we've been looking all over for you. And I go, I'm sorry? You've been looking all over for me? Did you not ask him for my telephone number? I go, it's been 3 weeks. I go, did you not get the telephone number from the police? From him? Did you Google my name? Because as far as I know, there's 2 pages as soon as you Google my name that has all my office information on it. Oh, never mind that now. I go, you clearly didn't try hard enough. Alright. And she goes, never mind that now. We've got you here. We'll talk about this now. So we made an appointment. CAS comes to interview me. And my oldest son, who she took aside and spoke to privately. And she said at one point, I've heard everything. I sympathize with you. Sounds like you were too good to him. And I said, please, I want to see my kids. I haven't seen my kids in 3 weeks. I want to know that they're okay, and I want to see them. And she said to me, well, you can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do. And I go, please, whatever you do, don't say that in front of my ex, because he'll use that and make sure that I never see the kids. And she goes, oh, well, I won't say anything, I promise. And then she did. And then I didn't see my kids. I saw them sporadically, minutes here, minutes there. A third party got involved. That third party turned out to be a flying monkey. He was telling everything. I was only allowed to see my children if this person was there. And, of course, because I want to see my children, I'll agree to anything. Anyone. And this person would take everything that they would hear and see back to my ex. And it would be only according to his schedule. So if he only wanted to be there for 5 minutes, it was 5 minutes that I got to see my kids. If he only had an hour, it was an hour. So after something like 11 weeks, and if you go back in my Facebook profile photos of that time, you'll see it's 11 weeks, 3 hours, 29 minutes. And that was usually just one of my 2 kids. That I was keeping track of how many weeks it had been since my arrest, how much time I had with my children, and I would put still waiting in the profile photo. So anybody who was close to me that knew what they knew, they would understand what those messages meant, that I haven't been seeing my kids, that I'm still being alienated and isolated from them. And I have arrived at my first destination, still only partly through. Like, share, subscribe, follow, comment, share. If you're a victim of domestic violence, please go to a shelter. I'll be back in a few minutes.